Before the Mushroom War reshaped the earth into the surreal land of Ooo, before candy people walked the streets, and before kingdoms rose and fell, there was magic. It was quieter then, less visible than in the vibrant chaos of Ooo, but it was always there, lingering in artifacts, in ancient bloodlines, in hidden corners of the world. Humanity, in its technological age, often dismissed it, burying its traces under science and progress. Yet magic endured, waiting like embers beneath ash, ready to ignite again when the world changed. To understand the history of magic in Ooo, we must begin here, in the shadowy age before the war, when magic still shaped destinies, even if few recognized it. One of the clearest examples of this hidden magic is the crown that would one day define Simon Petrikov. Long before it came into Simon's possession, the crown had already existed for centuries, if not longer. Forged by unknown hands, imbued with the power to control ice and snow, the crown was not merely a tool, but a curse. Its magic did not only grant power, it consumed identity, bending its wearer into a vessel for its will. In the pre-war world, where science reigned, such an object might have seemed like a relic, a curiosity for collectors. Yet the crown's existence reveals that magic was alive, even in an age of reason, not gone, only forgotten, its dangers underestimated. The enchiridion is another sign of this hidden age of magic. Described as a hero's manual, it was not a book in the ordinary sense. Its pages contained guidance for quests, moral tests, and instructions for navigating both Ooo and the wider multiverse. While its exact origins remain shrouded in mystery, its survival through the pre-war world proves that knowledge of magic endured, even when belief in it faltered. For humanity, caught up in machines and weapons, the enchiridion might have seemed quaint or obsolete. But its presence shows that magic had already prepared for the age to come, waiting for the next hero to open its pages. Vampirism, too, existed before the war. Marceline's early life proves that magical curses and supernatural beings were not inventions of the post-war landscape. Vampires roamed, striking fear and awe into those who encountered them. Their powers, flight, immortality, transformation, were not products of mutation, but of ancient magic, carried forward through centuries. The fact that Marceline's childhood intersected with both Simon's science and her vampiric curse shows that pre-war Earth was already a crossroads of two forces, rational humanity and enduring magic. Psychologically, this tension reflects humanity's own divided identity, of the desire for progress, tempered by the shadows of myth that never fully disappear. Artifacts, bloodlines, and curses, these were the vessels through which magic persisted. They remind us that magic does not vanish when ignored. It waits, woven into objects, inscribed in ancient contracts, carried in the veins of those touched by it. Pre-war humanity may have built cities, bombs, and technologies that reached into the stars, but beneath their feet, the earth still remembered its older rules. Creatures like demons and elementals, though hidden, remained alive. Realms like the Nightosphere and the Dead World still loomed beyond the veil, ready to intrude when the boundaries weakened. Magic was never gone. It was simply dormant, eclipsed by human ambition. The psychology of this era is fascinating. Humanity's dismissal of magic reflects our own tendency to ignore what we cannot measure. For Simon, a man of science, artifacts like the crown were curiosities, not living forces. He studied, collected, and admired without fully grasping the danger. His transformation into the Ice King later would prove the cost of this underestimation. Symbolically, this reflects the idea that progress without humility blinds us. The more humanity relied on machines, the more it forgot the older forces that shaped its world. When the mushroom bomb fell, it was not only technology that destroyed civilization, it was magic unleashed by human arrogance. The Nitosphere's presence in this era is particularly telling. Hunson Abadir ruled there long before the Mushroom War, striking contracts and consuming souls. His realm operated on its own laws, separate from human politics, yet it intersected with Earth through figures like Marceline. That humanity did not collapse under Nitosphere influence shows that the realm was distant, its ruler more concerned with his own dominion. But its existence proves that the multiverse was always porous, that other dimensions waited just beyond perception. Psychologically, this reflects the way people live with unseen influences, trauma, history, subconscious fears, which remain powerful even if unacknowledged. The Dead World too was present before the war. Death, calm and inevitable, already reigned there. Mortals may not have understood its structure, but souls passed through as they always had. Death's neutrality contrasts with humanity's belief in control. While humans built weapons to dominate, death continued its endless task without judgment. Symbolically, this shows that even before the chaos of Ooo, the balance of existence rested on forces beyond human reach. Magic, in this sense, was never optional. It was the foundation of reality, ignored at humanity's peril. Even the comets, which descend every 1,000 years, tie into this pre-war history. Finn's soul, bound to the green comet, existed long before his birth, long before Ooo. The comet's cyclical descent into Earth reveals that magic is not simply a quirk of the Mushroom War, but a universal constant. Humanity's bombs and cities were temporary. The comets, like the cycles of life and death, endured. Psychologically, this reflects the insignificance of human power compared to cosmic patterns. Symbolically, it shows that Oo's later magic was not born from chaos alone, but from cycles far older than war. Taken together, these pieces reveal a crucial truth. Magic before the war was never absent, only hidden. It lived in artifacts like the crown and the enchiridion. It flowed in curses like vampirism. It thrived in dimensions like the Nitosphere and the Dead World. It descended in comets, carrying destiny across millennia. Humanity, in its pride, ignored these truths, believing machines could replace myth. But when the mushroom bomb fell, the old magic reasserted itself, surging into the cracks left by devastation. Symbolically, the age before the war represents denial, end quote, humanity's refusal to acknowledge the fullness of reality. Psychologically, it reflects the way individuals suppress parts of themselves only for those parts to resurface in crisis. Just as Simon suppressed the crown's danger until it consumed him, humanity suppressed magic until it remade the world. The Land of Ooo was not born from nothing. It was born from what had always been there, waiting beneath the surface. Ultimately, magic before the war shows us that history is not linear. It is layered, with ancient forces persisting beneath modern progress. The crown waited, the enchiridion waited. Vampires endured. The Nitosphere and the Dead World remained. Humanity thought itself the master of Earth, but it was only a tenant, living atop foundations it did not understand. When the war came, those foundations cracked, and magic flooded upward, reclaiming its place. And so, to tell the history of magic in Ooo, we begin not with its rise, but with its quiet persistence. The embers that never died, glowing beneath the ruins of an age that thought itself beyond enchantment. The Mushroom War was the great turning point, not only in the history of Earth, but in the history of magic itself. Before the war, magic had endured quietly, surviving in artifacts, bloodlines, and hidden dimensions. After the war, it erupted into the open, reshaping the very fabric of the world. The detonation of the mushroom bomb did more than devastate cities and end human civilization. It cracked reality itself, creating a world where the boundaries between science and sorcery, nature and mutation, life and death blurred forever. To understand the role of magic in Ooo, we must understand how the war awakened it, how destruction became the strange soil in which enchantment flourished. The mushroom bomb was no ordinary weapon. On the surface, it was a product of human technology, a devastating nuclear device built for war. But within it rested something far more ancient, the essence of the Lich. This fusion of science and evil made the bomb not only destructive but transformative. Its explosion did not simply reduce cities to ash. It released corruption that seeped into the earth, air and water, warping everything it touched. Creatures mutated, landscapes twisted, and hidden dimensions drew closer. In this moment, magic that had lingered in the shadows surged forward, awakened by catastrophe. The birth of the Lich from the bomb's detonation is perhaps the clearest example of this awakening. He was not born as an individual creature in the traditional sense, but as the personification of the bomb's destruction. Where humanity sought victory through weapons, the Lich was the weapon's shadow, the embodiment of annihilation itself. His existence proved that the bomb did more than kill. It tore open reality, giving rise to beings of pure magic. Symbolically, the Lich represents the truth that human attempts at control often unleash forces far greater than intended. Psychologically, he is the war's trauma given flesh, a living reminder that destruction echoes long after the blast. Simon Petrikov's tragedy also unfolded in this era. Having discovered the crown before the war, Simon carried it into the post-war wasteland. The crown's magic, already potent, became even more dangerous in the fragile, mutated world. As Simon slowly lost himself to its power, transforming into the Ice King, his story revealed how the war's aftermath accelerated magic's influence. In a stable world, Simon might have found help, research, or ways to resist. In the ruined wasteland, surrounded by chaos, his descent was inevitable. Symbolically, Simon represents humanity's attempt to hold on to reason in a world drowned in irrational forces. Psychologically, his downfall mirrors the way individuals fracture under trauma, consumed by the very tools they once thought they controlled. Marceline's survival, alongside Simon, highlights another aspect of magic's awakening. As a child of both demon and human heritage, she was already connected to supernatural forces. In the war's aftermath, her vampirism and her demonic lineage became survival tools in a world where ordinary humanity faltered. For her, magic was not abstract, but visceral, woven into her identity. The war forced her to confront both her humanity and her monstrosity, shaping her into a figure who would bridge the old and new worlds. Symbolically, Marceline embodies resilience, the ability of magic-touched beings to endure when ordinary humanity could not. The land itself became infused with magic. Radiation and destruction opened cracks through which dimensions leaked. Mutations gave rise to creatures that defied natural law. Candy people, living fire, sentient slime. The post-war environment was not merely a wasteland, but a crucible, forging new forms of life from the fusion of science and sorcery. Entire kingdoms would eventually rise from these strange beginnings. Symbolically, this transformation reflects the theme of rebirth through catastrophe. Psychologically, it mirrors the human tendency to find new ways of living even after devastation. Magic's awakening was not only destructive, it was creative, giving birth to Oo's bizarre diversity. The elementals also began to stir during this period. Though they had always existed as fundamental forces, the war's devastation gave them new prominence. Fire, ice, candy, and slime re-emerged as dominant powers, reshaping the balance of the land. The Ice Crown's corruption amplified the Ice Elemental's influence through Simon. Candy biomass gave rise to Princess Bubblegum, whose intelligence and leadership marked the rebirth of community. Fire and slime, long chaotic, now found renewed strength in the fractured landscape. Symbolically, the reawakening of the elementals reveals that magic is cyclical, always returning in new forms when the world demands balance. The Nightosphere, too, found new openings in the aftermath. Hunson Abadir, though not directly involved in the war, benefited from the weakened boundaries between realms. Demons slipped more easily into the world, their contracts and chaos seeding further instability. Marceline's demonic lineage made her a bridge between these realms, showing how personal stories were tied to cosmic shifts. Psychologically, the Nightosphere's intrusion represents the way trauma invites corruption, how disaster creates cracks through which darker impulses seep. Death's realm remained unchanged, but the number of souls passing through multiplied in the war's wake. Death himself did not alter his neutrality, yet his presence became more visible in Oo's history as magic reasserted itself. Symbolically, this shows that some forces endure no matter the catastrophe. Even as magic surged and kingdoms formed, death remained steady, a reminder that endings were part of the new world, just as they had been part of the old. Perhaps the most important aspect of magic's awakening during the Mushroom War was its integration with technology. The bomb itself embodied this fusion, a machine powered by sorcery. After the war, remnants of technology became imbued with magical properties. Artifacts, ruins, and weapons no longer functioned as purely mechanical devices, but as hybrid relics, blending science with enchantment. Symbolically, this fusion reveals that magic and science were never opposites, but two sides of the same creative impulse. Psychologically, it reflects the way trauma fuses past and present, blending memory and myth into something inseparable. For survivors like Finn's ancestors, this new world was disorienting. Humanity, once dominant, became marginalized. Magic was no longer hidden, it was everywhere, unavoidable, often hostile. To live meant to adapt, to accept that the rules had changed forever. Symbolically, humanity's decline represents the fragility of progress. Psychologically, it reflects the shattering of certainty after catastrophe. What once seemed solid crumbled, leaving only the strange and the magical to fill the void. Ultimately, the Mushroom War was the crucible in which Oo's magic was reborn. The bomb unleashed corruption that gave rise to the Lich. Simon's crown became a curse he could not escape. Marceline's survival tied humanity to magic's endurance. The land mutated into kingdoms that defied natural law. Elementals stirred, demons intruded, and death continued his eternal work. What began as a war of machines ended as a rebirth of enchantment, a world where magic was no longer peripheral but central. Symbolically, this awakening represents the truth that endings are beginnings. Psychologically, it reflects the way trauma, though devastating, often reshapes life in unforeseen ways. Magic's return was not merciful, but it was transformative. It ensured that from the ruins of humanity's pride, something new would emerge, a land both whimsical and terrifying, where Candy walked, where fire ruled, where ice sang, and where adventure never ended. Of all the magical artifacts in Adventure Time, none is more tragic, more dangerous, or more central to the story of Ooo than the Ice Crown. Its history stretches back long before the Mushroom War, its power capable of bending the world to the will of its wearer. But unlike other relics, the crown extracts a price that no one can escape: the loss of self. The tale of Simon Petrikov, the man who found the crown and was slowly consumed by it, is not only the story of a magical object, but the story of how magic, when unchecked, can consume even the noblest intentions. To understand magic in Ooo, we must linger here, in the frost of the crown, where tragedy and enchantment are bound together. The crown's origins are never fully explained in the series, but what we do know speaks volumes. Forged long before the Mushroom War, its enchantments were not whimsical or gentle, but deeply binding. It granted control over ice and snow, yes, but at the cost of the wearer's sanity. The longer one wore it, the more the crown imposed its own will, erasing personality, memory, and love until only obsession with its frozen magic remained. Unlike the enchiridion, which guided heroes, or even vampirism, which cursed yet preserved identity, the crown devoured identity itself. Symbolically, the crown represents power that consumes, the kind of magic that grants strength by hollowing out the self. Simon Petrikov's tragedy begins innocently enough. A scholar, a collector, a man fascinated by history, Simon was not seeking domination or destruction when he acquired the crown. He was driven by curiosity, by the love of knowledge. In this, Simon reflects humanity's own relationship with magic. Fascination mixed with underestimation. He treated the crown as an artifact, something to be studied, not something alive and insidious. Psychologically, this reflects humanity's blind spot, the belief that everything can be controlled, catalogued, and understood, even forces that fundamentally resist mastery. The Mushroom War tore apart the world Simon knew. In its aftermath, as he and young Marceline wandered the ruins, the crown became more than a curiosity. It became his only tool to protect her, to conjure shelter, food, and defense against the horrors of the wasteland. But with every use, the crown claimed more of him. Simon's love for Marceline, his desire to protect her, bound him to the very object that would erase that love. This is what makes his story so devastating. The crown did not corrupt him out of malice, but out of love. He used it to save Marceline, only to lose himself in the process. Symbolically, this reveals the paradox of power. The tools we use to protect what we love can become the very things that destroy our ability to love at all. As the years passed, Simon disappeared beneath the crown's weight, becoming the Ice King. His memories faded, his personality warped, until all that remained was loneliness disguised as obsession. No longer able to recognize Marceline as the child he once cared for, he became the comical yet tragic figure who kidnapped princesses, wrote strange songs, and lived alone in a fortress of ice. Psychologically, this transformation reflects the devastation of trauma and mental illness to the way identity can fracture under unbearable weight. Symbolically, it reflects the price of unchecked magic. Power that isolates, power that freezes not only landscapes, but the soul. The crown's influence also reveals the dangerous intimacy between magic and identity in Ooo. Where other kingdoms used magic to shape societies, the crown shaped a person. It turned Simon into something unrecognizable, proving that in Ooo, magic is not merely external, but internal. It does not only build cities or destroy landscapes, it rewrites the self. For Simon, this rewriting was not instantaneous but gradual, a slow erosion of memory, compassion, and clarity. Psychologically, this reflects the long descent into loss, whether through illness, addiction, or grief, where the self vanishes, not all at once, but piece by piece. The tragedy of the crown deepens when we consider Betty, Simon's fiancée, left behind in the pre-war world, became trapped in her own descent as she sought to save him. Her story, though tied to GOLB in the finale, begins here, in the moment Simon lost himself to the crown. Betty's quest across time and dimensions reflects the ripple effects of the crown's magic. It did not only destroy Simon, it reshaped Betty's life, turning her love into obsession, her future into sacrifice. Symbolically, this shows that magic's costs extend outward, consuming not only its wielder, but everyone around them. What makes the crown distinct from other magical forces is its lack of balance. Elemental magic, while destructive, exists as part of a cycle. Fire balanced by ice, candy by slime. The crown, however, is parasitic. It consumes without giving back, offering no equilibrium, no greater meaning. Its only legacy is isolation and coldness. Symbolically, this makes it the embodiment of corruption, a reminder that not all magic in Ooo serves balance or creation. Some magic exists only to hollow out. Yet even in his madness, Simon left traces of who he once was. His songs, his journals, his fleeting moments of clarity with Marceline all remind us that the crown could erase much, but not everything. The fragments of Simon that survived within the Ice King are the heart of his story. Psychologically, this reflects the resilience of identity, that even under immense pressure, some core of self can remain. Symbolically, it shows that magic, no matter how consuming, cannot fully erase love. It can bury it, freeze it, obscure it, but never wholly extinguish it. The eventual freeing of Simon in the finale completes this arc. With Betty's sacrifice and GOLB's transformation, the crown's grip was finally broken. Simon emerged, dazed and grieving, no longer a wizard, but a man. His story reveals the full truth of the crown, that its power was never worth its price, that magic which consumes the self leaves only tragedy behind. Psychologically, Simon's survival after the crown represents the painful process of healing, not erasing scars, but learning to live with them. Symbolically, it affirms Adventure Time's philosophy that even after the deepest corruption, recovery is possible, though it is never simple. The crown's place in the history of Ooo is unique because it bridges all eras. It existed before the war, it shaped the aftermath, and it endured into the modern age of Finn and Jake. It connected the human world with the magical one, showing that the two were never separate but always intertwined. Its legacy is not only the tragedy of Simon, but the reminder that magic, when unchecked, can devour not only lands and kingdoms, but the very essence of who we are. Ultimately, the story of the crown and Simon Petrikov is one of love, loss, and the danger of underestimating magic. Simon wanted only to protect Marceline, to preserve knowledge, to live a life with Betty. Instead, he became the Ice King, a lonely figure wandering through centuries of madness. His tragedy is the clearest example of how magic in Ooo is not whimsical decoration, but a force with teeth, capable of shaping destinies in irreversible ways. And yet, within his tragedy lies resilience. The fragments of love that endured, the survival of Simon after the crown, the bond with Marceline that never fully broke. In that resilience, the story of the crown is not only despair, but also the faint glimmer of hope, that even the coldest magic cannot freeze love forever. If the ice crown represents magic that consumes identity, then Marceline's vampirism represents magic that complicates identity. Her story is not one of being devoured, but of being stretched between worlds, between humanity, demonhood, and vampiric immortality. Marceline's life reveals another face of Oo's magic, not whimsical sorcery or cosmic power, but curses that shape the self across centuries. To understand magic in Ooo, we must understand how vampirism marked Marceline, how it bound her to the land, fractured her sense of self, and yet gave her the endurance to survive when others could not. Marceline was born long before the Land of Ooo fully took form, a child of mixed heritage. Her father, Hunson Abadir, ruled the Nightosphere, embodying chaos and demonic hunger. Her mother was human, grounded in the fragile world of pre- and post-war Earth. From the beginning, Marceline carried magic in her blood, a bridge between dimensions. But it was not her demonic half that defined her most. It was the curse she later bore, vampirism. Her transformation into a vampire set her apart from both humanity and demonhood, binding her to a path of loneliness and endurance. The vampire court embodied vampirism's place in Oo's history. Each vampire carried unique magical abilities: flight, invisibility, hypnosis, transformation, and more. They were not mutated humans like candy people or slime creatures. They were something older, darker, a strain of magic that predated the Mushroom War. When Marceline encountered them, she did not merely face enemies, she faced the possibility of what she might become. Psychologically, the vampires represent temptation and burden. Symbolically, they represent predation, beings who survive not by building kingdoms, but by feeding on others. Marceline's eventual transformation into a vampire was both victory and curse. By slaying the vampire king, she absorbed his powers and his immortality. In doing so, she gained strength, but lost the simplicity of a mortal life. Unlike Simon's crown, which erased identity, vampirism left Marceline's self intact, but stretched it across centuries. She remembered everything: her childhood, her traumas, her loves, and carried them endlessly forward. Psychologically, this reflects the weight of memory. Symbolically, it shows that magic's curse is not always erasure, but endurance. Her immortality gave her time, but it also gave her loneliness. While kingdoms rose and fell, while friends aged and died, Marceline remained. Her music, her sarcasm, her distance, all of these were shields against the pain of watching time leave her behind. Psychologically, vampirism became the metaphor for grief extended into eternity. Symbolically, it reveals the paradox of magic's gift. To survive when others cannot is both blessing and wound. The Stakes miniseries makes this truth explicit. When Marceline sought to rid herself of vampirism, she was not simply rejecting powers. She was rejecting the burden of immortality, the endless cycle of loneliness and memory. Yet, when the vampire court returned, she realized that her curse was also her strength. She was uniquely equipped to defeat them, to protect Ooo from their predation. Psychologically, this reflects the truth that our wounds can also be our tools, that burdens can become sources of resilience. Symbolically, it affirms Adventure Time's philosophy that magic, even when cursed, carries the possibility of meaning. Her relationship with Simon ties vampirism back to the broader story of magic in Ooo. As a child, Marceline relied on Simon's care after the Mushroom War. He fed her, protected her, comforted her. Yet, as he descended into the Ice King, she was forced to confront the loss of the only stable relationship she had. Her vampirism ensured she survived, but it could not preserve the bond they once shared. Psychologically, this layered grief upon grief. First the loss of her mother, then the loss of Simon, then the centuries of isolation that followed. Symbolically, her vampirism made her the keeper of memory, holding on to the past, long after others forgot. Her relationship with Princess Bubblegum later offered a different kind of reconciliation. Unlike Simon, PB did not vanish into madness. Instead, she grew, faltered, and returned. Marceline's vampirism, her endurance, allowed her to see Bubblegum across centuries of change. Their eventual reconciliation and romance show how immortality can preserve love even when it takes centuries to heal wounds. Psychologically, this reflects Marceline's longing for intimacy, for someone who could endure with her rather than vanish. Symbolically, their relationship represents the possibility of harmony between shadow and sweetness, curse and creation. Vampirism's place in Oo's history also highlights the persistence of older magics in a post-war world. Where candy kingdoms and fire monarchies represented new forms of life, vampirism was ancient, lingering through apocalypse. This endurance shows that magic is not always born of catastrophe. Sometimes it survives catastrophe. The vampires were relics of a pre-war age, yet they resurfaced to threaten Ooh again, proving that old curses never fully fade. Psychologically, this reflects the persistence of trauma. Symbolically, it reminds us that history's scars always wait beneath the surface, ready to return. What makes Marceline's vampirism distinct from other magical transformations is her choice. While Simon could not resist the crown, Marceline continually wrestled with her curse. She chose to embrace it when necessary, to reject it when she could, to define it on her own terms. Psychologically, this reflects agency amid burden, the ability to shape one's identity even within constraints. Symbolically, it shows that magic is not destiny alone. It is negotiation, a conversation between what one is given and what one chooses. Her music adds another layer to this story. Through song, Marceline processed her grief, her loneliness, her love. Music became her magic, not in the literal sense of spells, but in the sense of shaping emotion, connecting across boundaries, and preserving memory. Psychologically, her music represents coping, the transformation of pain into expression. Symbolically, it expands the definition of magic in Ooh, not only crowns and curses, but the ability to create beauty from sorrow. Ultimately, Marceline's vampirism is central to the history of magic in Ooh, because it reveals magic's most personal face. It is not always about kingdoms or cosmic forces. Sometimes it is about a single life stretched across centuries, carrying the weight of memory and the paradox of survival. Marceline shows that magic is not only a force of destruction or creation, but a force of identity, shaping who we are, how we love, and how we endure. Her immortality is not clean victory or unending curse. It is both. She suffers, but she sings. She loses, but she endures. She carries trauma, but she also carries love. In her, vampirism becomes not only a mark of darkness, but a testament to resilience. Symbolically, she is the embodiment of Ooh itself, scarred, transformed, cursed, but still alive, still creating, still singing into the night. If artifacts like the crown show how magic consumes individuals, and vampirism shows how magic endures through curses, then the elementals reveal another truth, that magic can be the very foundation of the world itself. Long before kingdoms rose, and before heroes like Finn and Jake began their adventures, the four elementals, fire, ice, candy, and slime, were the primal forces of Ooh. Each one was not simply a wielder of magic, but a living embodiment of it, a guardian and a danger, a balance and a threat. When the Mushroom War fractured reality, these forces reawakened in new forms, shaping Oo's destiny in ways both subtle and catastrophic. The elementals are ancient, their origins stretching back before the war. They are not rulers in the ordinary sense, nor simple spellcasters. They are closer to natural laws made flesh, the living incarnations of the elements themselves. Each generation sees these roles passed down, reincarnated, or reborn in new figures. In the Age of Ooo, we know, the elementals were Princess Bubblegum as the candy elemental, Flame Princess as the fire elemental, Slime Princess as the slime elemental, and Patient Street, Pim as the ice elemental. Their existence proves that magic is not merely an add-on to Oo's world, it is its foundation, woven into the very essence of its reality. Patient Street Pim offers one of the clearest windows into the history of the elementals. As the ice elemental, she lived before the Mushroom War and was frozen in ice, only to awaken centuries later in a land transformed. Her reappearance is haunting because it reminds us that the elementals are not just myth but continuity. They persist even when their civilizations collapse. Psychologically, Patience represents denial and repression. She literally freezes herself rather than adapt, choosing stasis over transformation. Symbolically, she embodies the dangers of clinging to the past, of refusing to move with the world's changes. Princess Bubblegum, by contrast, represents the element of candy, the newest, strangest, and most whimsical of the four. Candy as an element is unusual. Fire burns, ice freezes, slime adapts, but candy represents creation, sweetness, and life given playful form. Bubblegum's intelligence and leadership made her more than a monarch. She was the embodiment of the element itself, a living reminder that even whimsy can be a form of power. Psychologically, her role shows how even the most fragile seeming qualities, sweetness, care, joy, can shape entire civilizations. Symbolically, candy, as an element, affirms Adventure Time's philosophy that silliness and kindness are as essential to survival as strength or destruction. Flame Princess, as the fire elemental, represents volatility. Her powers are immense, capable of destroying kingdoms, and her anger, when unleashed, threatens all around her. Yet her growth from a weapon controlled by her father to an independent ruler of the Fire Kingdom shows how elemental magic can evolve. She is not merely fire's destruction, she is also its warmth, its transformative energy. Psychologically, Flame Princess embodies the struggle to control destructive impulses without extinguishing vitality. Symbolically, she reveals that fire is not only a danger, but also a source of renewal, burning away what is stagnant to make room for growth. Slime Princess, often treated as comic relief, is perhaps the most underestimated of the elementals. Yet her element, slime, reveals surprising resilience. Slime adapts, absorbs, reforms. It cannot be destroyed in the same way as fire or ice. It simply reshapes itself. Psychologically, this reflects flexibility, the ability to endure through change. Symbolically, slime represents persistence, the quiet refusal to vanish. Though she may appear silly, Slime Princess embodies an essential truth, that survival is not always about strength or destruction, but about adaptability. When the elementals interacted, their balance, or imbalance, revealed the stakes of their power. Patience, desperate to restore the old order, manipulated the others, attempting to recreate the elemental struggles of the past. Yet Ooo was not the same world it had been. Bubblegum's Candy Kingdom had grown into a political force. Flame Princess's independence disrupted the cycle of control. Slime's adaptability resisted categorization. The old patterns no longer fit. Psychologically, this reflects the tension between history and progress, the pull of repeating old mistakes versus the possibility of creating something new. Symbolically, the elementals remind us that cycles can be broken, but only through growth and reconciliation. The elementals also show how deeply magic in Ooo is tied to identity. None of them chose their roles. They were born, created, or reincarnated into them, yet each shaped that destiny differently. Bubblegum embraced hers with rational control. Flame Princess resisted hers with passion. Slime Princess embodied hers with humor, and Patience clung to hers with fear. Psychologically, this reflects the human struggle with inheritance, the traits, histories, and legacies we do not choose but must live with. Symbolically, it reveals that magic in Ooo is not merely external power, but internal essence, shaping who beings are at their core. Their presence also expands the scale of Oo's magic. The crown, vampirism, wizardry, these are potent, but they are individual. The elementals are collective, tied not just to people, but to entire realms. The Candy Kingdom exists because of Bubblegum. The Fire Kingdom thrives because of Flame Princess. Slime flows endlessly through its territory, reflecting its princess. Even ice, through Patience, casts long shadows into Oo's history. Symbolically, this shows that elemental magic is not about personal ambition, but about shaping the land itself. Psychologically, it reflects the way identity influences communities, how one person's nature can ripple outward into society. In the grand history of Ooo, the return of the elementals after the Mushroom War was inevitable. When technology collapsed, when humanity fell, the primal forces of reality reasserted themselves. Magic surged not only in individuals, but in the very balance of nature. The elementals were that balance given form. Their conflicts, their alliances, their very existence shaped Oo's kingdoms and destinies. Without them, Ooo would not be a land of candy, fire, slime, and ice. It would be barren, lifeless, devoid of the strange vitality that defines it. Ultimately, the elementals reveal magic's most fundamental truth in Ooo, that it is not only power to be wielded, but essence to be lived. They show that magic is not an accessory, but the foundation of reality, embodied in beings who carry both blessing and burden. Their struggles mirror our own, the battle to accept what we inherit, to grow beyond cycles of conflict, to reconcile with others different from ourselves. Psychologically, they represent the fractured parts of the human psyche: sweetness, passion, adaptability, fear, each demanding recognition, each needing balance. Symbolically, they remind us that survival requires more than destruction or order. It requires harmony, even when that harmony is fragile. And so, when we look at magic in Ooo, we cannot ignore the elementals. They are not only rulers of kingdoms or quirky princesses. They are Ooo itself, living incarnations of the forces that make the land what it is. Their return after the war was not a coincidence, but a necessity, the world restoring its balance after catastrophe. In their stories, we see not only the power of magic, but the essence of Ooo: fragile, fiery, fluid, sweet, frozen, all at once, all in tension, all in need of one another. If the elementals represent magic as the foundation of the world, then Wizard City represents magic as human ambition, or perhaps, more accurately, as mortal obsession. Unlike elemental magic, which is inherited, or artifacts like the crown, which consume their wielders. Wizardry is learned, cultivated, and pursued. It is magic as craft, studied through practice, experimentation, and, more often than not, recklessness. In the Land of Ooo, wizardry became one of the most vibrant, chaotic, and dangerous expressions of magic, and nowhere is this better seen than in Wizard City, the hub where those obsessed with power gathered. Wizard City, as its name suggests, is a realm devoted entirely to magic. Its streets, shops, and schools revolve around spells, potions, and enchantments. Wizards of every kind, from the bumbling abracadaniel to the sinister necromancers lurking in alleys, call it home. It is not a kingdom with a single monarch like the Candy or Fire kingdoms. Instead, it is a society shaped by shared obsession. Magic is currency, status, and survival. The result is a city that feels both wondrous and unstable, a place where brilliance and madness coexist in equal measure. What makes wizardry distinct from elemental magic is its accessibility. Anyone with the determination and knowledge can pursue it. This democratization, however, comes with danger. Wizards are rarely wise. They are often eccentric, unbalanced, and consumed by their pursuits. Magic, for them, is not balance or identity, but endless possibility, a canvas on which to experiment without restraint. Psychologically, wizardry represents obsession, the drive to master what cannot truly be mastered. Symbolically, it reflects the human impulse to control forces greater than ourselves, even when the cost is madness. The Wizard School, taught by the gruff yet iconic Wizard Master Bufo, captures this perfectly. There, students are initiated into spells, not with reverence, but with absurd trials. Learning magic is treated as both discipline and hazing ritual, revealing the blend of seriousness and silliness that defines Wizard City. For outsiders like Finn, who briefly attempted to pass as a wizard, the school's culture is baffling, comical, and even dangerous. Yet for wizards themselves, this chaos is normal. It reveals that in Wizard City, instability is not a flaw, but a way of life. Figures like Ice King show wizardry's tragic potential. Though his powers ultimately stem from the crown, his behaviour resembles that of other wizards, eccentric, obsessive, and isolated. He represents the thin line between brilliance and madness that wizardry often produces. Abracadaniel, by contrast, represents the comic side of wizardry. Kind-hearted but clumsy, his spells often fail, yet he still identifies fully as a wizard. These characters remind us that wizardry is not uniform. It produces both danger and charm, horror and humour, reflecting the full spectrum of human ambition. Peppermint Butler's relationship with Wizard City adds another layer. Though he is not a traditional wizard by birth, his obsession with the dark arts drives him to infiltrate its ranks, to learn spells and secrets others fear. His story in Wizard City shows how far individuals will go to acquire magical knowledge, even at the cost of identity or reputation. For Peppermint Butler, wizardry is not play, but survival, a means of protecting Ooo from forces most do not understand. Psychologically, his pursuit represents the willingness to embrace taboo in the name of preparedness. Symbolically, it reveals wizardry's darker truth, that knowledge is power, and power often demands sacrifice. Wizard City also reveals the social dimension of magic. Unlike artifacts or elemental inheritance, wizardry is communal. Wizards gather, compete, collaborate, and sabotage one another. Their society, though chaotic, is structured around this shared pursuit, yet it is also deeply stratified. Those who master greater spells wield more respect. Those who fail are ridiculed or dismissed. Psychologically, this mirrors real-world systems of status built on knowledge and mastery. Symbolically, it reveals magic's role not only as power, but as identity within a community. The culture of Wizard City is also marked by its carelessness. Experiments often backfire, spells explode, and side effects are shrugged off. This recklessness reveals the darker side of wizardry, its disregard for consequences. Where the elementals embody balance and the nightosphere embodies corruption, wizardry embodies negligence. Wizards often pursue spells for their own sake, without considering who might be harmed. Psychologically, this reflects the danger of obsession divorced from compassion. Symbolically, it shows that magic without purpose is not creation, but chaos. Yet for all its flaws, wizardry is essential to Ooo. Wizard City is a crucible of innovation, a place where spells, artifacts, and knowledge circulate. Many of Oo's magical landscapes, from dungeons to cursed objects, owe their existence to wizardly experiments gone wrong. Wizards, though foolish, expand the boundaries of possibility. Psychologically, this reflects the truth that obsession, while dangerous, can also produce brilliance. Symbolically, it affirms that even reckless pursuits contribute to the world's richness, for better or worse. The relationship between wizardry and mortality is particularly telling. Unlike the elementals, who are tied to cycles of reincarnation, wizards are mortals grasping at eternity. Their spells are attempts to push back death, to defy limitation, to hold power beyond their years. This hunger often leads to corruption, as seen in necromancers who bargain with death or demons. Psychologically, this reflects the fear of mortality and the denial of limits. Symbolically, wizardry becomes humanity's oldest dream, to control what cannot be controlled. Wizard City's existence also highlights the diversity of magic in Ooo. While kingdoms embody elements and cosmic beings embody principles, wizardry embodies the everyday pursuit of power by ordinary mortals. It proves that magic in Ooo is not confined to chosen ones or ancient curses. It is available to anyone reckless enough to chase it. This accessibility makes wizardry both inspiring and terrifying. Psychologically, it reflects the truth that ambition is universal. Symbolically, it shows that magic is not only destiny, but desire, born from the longing of individuals to matter. Ultimately, wizardry and Wizard City reveal the face of magic that is most human. It is messy, obsessive, comical, dangerous, and brilliant all at once. It is the side of magic that mirrors our own pursuit of knowledge, our own recklessness, our own hunger for control. Unlike the inevitability of the elementals or the curse of vampirism, wizardry is chosen, and in that choice lies both its danger and its beauty. In the great history of Ooo, wizardry ensures that magic is not only ancient and cosmic, but also immediate and personal. Wizard City, with its absurdity and ambition, reminds us that magic is not always grand. Sometimes it is silly, sometimes it is tragic, sometimes it is reckless, but always it is human. And in that humanity, wizardry carves its place in Oo's magical story. Not as balance, not as curse, but as obsession given form, thriving in a city where ambition is the only law. When most people think of the Candy Kingdom, they imagine sweetness, innocence, and order. Princess Bubblegum rules with scientific brilliance. Banana guards shuffle clumsily through the streets, and candy citizens live simple, cheerful lives. But beneath the sugar-coated surface of the kingdom lies one of Ooo's strangest contradictions, Peppermint Butler. On the outside, he is a polite servant, a loyal retainer, and a harmless peppermint candy. Yet behind his unassuming face hides one of Ooo's deepest connections to dark magic. If Wizard City represents the pursuit of magic through obsession, and the elementals represent its primal forms, Peppermint Butler represents the forbidden side, the willingness to step into the shadows for the sake of survival. From his first appearances, Peppermint Butler was more than he seemed. His calm politeness often gave way to unsettling moments, hints of secret knowledge and connections that did not belong to a simple butler. He casually referenced demons, spoke of death as an acquaintance, and summoned powers no other candy person dared touch. While Princess Bubblegum relied on science, and the rest of her kingdom lived in innocence, Peppermint Butler delved into necromancy, contracts, and forbidden rites. His duality, servant of sweetness and master of darkness, reveals how magic in Ooo is never simple. It can hide in the least likely places, woven into lives that appear ordinary. What drives Peppermint Butler into the dark arts is not fully explained, but his motivations can be pieced together. The Candy Kingdom is fragile. Its citizens are naive, its armies bumbling, its very nature one of vulnerability. Perhaps Peppermint Butler realized what Bubblegum often denied, that sweetness alone cannot protect Ooo. Science and order have limits. Against demons, vampires, and cosmic forces, sometimes darker tools are necessary. Psychologically, this reflects pragmatism, the willingness to embrace what others fear for the sake of protection. Symbolically, it shows that magic's shadow side is not always evil. Sometimes it is survival. One of Peppermint Butler's clearest connections to the dark arts is his relationship with death. Unlike most mortals who fear death, Peppermint Butler treats him almost casually, as though they are old acquaintances. He summons him when needed, bargains with him, and even drags others into his realm. This familiarity reveals a mastery of necromancy rare in Ooo. Where others avoid the subject, Peppermint Butler embraces it, showing that for him, mortality is not taboo, but a tool to manipulate. Psychologically, this reveals comfort with what others repress. Symbolically, it shows that to master magic fully, one must face even its darkest truths. His dealings with demons further emphasize this theme. He is shown summoning Hunson Abadir, Marceline's father, with surprising confidence. Few would dare call upon the ruler of the Nitosphere, yet Peppermint Butler does so without hesitation. His ability to negotiate with demons reveals not only skill, but audacity. He does not fear corruption, or perhaps he accepts it as a cost worth paying. Psychologically, this reflects risk-taking born of necessity. Symbolically, it highlights the tension between innocence and corruption, sweetness and shadow that defines his character. The episode Wizard City expands this further. After losing much of his power and memory, Peppermint Butler seeks to rejoin the ranks of wizards, hiding his past under the guise of a student. Yet, even stripped of his knowledge, his instincts remain. His fascination with the dark arts resurfaces, his aptitude undeniable. This shows that his connection to forbidden magic is not only learned, but ingrained, part of who he is. Psychologically, this reflects the persistence of identity, that even when suppressed, our truest selves resurface. Symbolically, it shows that magic, once embraced, becomes inseparable from the soul. What makes Peppermint Butler's use of the dark arts so fascinating is that it does not corrupt him into villainy. Unlike the Ice Crown, which consumed Simon, or vampirism, which burdened Marceline, the dark arts for Peppermint Butler are tools. He does not lose himself to them. Instead, he wields them with precision, keeping his polite exterior intact. This duality makes him unsettling. He embodies the truth that darkness is not always loud, Sometimes it is quiet, polite, and smiling, serving tea while plotting necromancy. Psychologically, this reflects compartmentalization, the ability to hide unsettling truths beneath ordinary behavior. Symbolically, it shows that magic's danger often lies not in the monstrous, but in the ordinary turned strange. His loyalty to Princess Bubblegum complicates this further. Despite his dark pursuits, Peppermint Butler is devoted to her, serving faithfully, protecting her kingdom. This loyalty suggests that his use of forbidden magic is not selfish, but protective. He embraces darkness, not for his own power, but to safeguard the fragile kingdom he serves. Psychologically, this reflects sacrifice, dut pan, the willingness to carry burdens others cannot. Symbolically, it reveals the paradox of the Candy Kingdom. Sweetness survives because darkness works quietly in its service. Peppermint Butler's place in Oo's magical history is essential because he reveals that magic is not purely good or evil, not purely balance or chaos. It is choice. He chooses to step into shadows so others can remain in light. His story complicates the neat divisions of magic into categories. He is not an elemental, not a cosmic being, not a cursed immortal. He is a peppermint candy who learns necromancy, who bargains with death, who summons demons, and who smiles while doing so. Psychologically, he reflects the human truth that survival often demands compromise. Symbolically, he shows that Oo's sweetness rests on hidden shadows. Ultimately, the dark arts of Peppermint Butler remind us that magic in Oo is not always whimsical or noble. Sometimes it is grim, unsettling, and necessary. He is the reminder that kingdoms are fragile, that threats lurk in shadows, and that protection sometimes requires stepping into those shadows. Yet he also reminds us that darkness need not consume us. It can be wielded, managed, even hidden beneath politeness. In Peppermint Butler, the contradictions of Oo converge. Candy and necromancy, innocence and corruption, loyalty and secrecy. His story proves that magic's history is not only about light or darkness, but about the choices made between them. If Wizard City shows us magic as obsession and Peppermint Butler shows us magic as secrecy, then the Nightosphere shows us magic as corruption, a force not only strange but parasitic, feeding on souls, deals, and desire. The Nightosphere is not a kingdom like candy or fire, nor is it a cosmic constant like life or death. It is a dimension ruled by chaos and appetite, bound together by one of Oo's most powerful figures, Hunson Abadir. Through him, the Nightosphere embodies magic at its most transactional: contracts, bargains, and deals written in blood. And through Marceline, his daughter, we see how the Nightosphere's darkness is not only external, but also deeply personal. The Nightosphere is less a place than a principle. Its landscapes are surreal, grotesque, and hostile, filled with demons who serve Hunson or themselves. Unlike Oo's whimsical lands, the Nightosphere is oppressive, echoing with screams, drenched in fire and shadow. Its rules are not democratic or even feudal, but authoritarian, with Hunson at the centre. He is not merely king, but embodiment, for the Nightosphere reflects his nature: hunger without end. His power lies in consumption, both literal and metaphorical. He devours souls, feeds on life, and binds others through contracts. Symbolically, the Nightosphere represents the dangers of unchecked appetite. Psychologically, it reflects addiction, compulsion, and the consuming nature of desire. Hunson Abadir himself is one of Oo's most enigmatic figures. On the surface, he appears comical at times, a businessman-like demon in a suit, treating soul-devouring as routine. Yet, beneath this exterior lies immense danger. He is one of the few beings who can stand alongside cosmic forces, his power immense, his influence stretching across dimensions. His relationship with Marceline complicates this image. To her, he is not only a demon lord, but a father, absent, neglectful, yet still tied to her identity. This duality makes him one of the most psychologically rich characters tied to magic in Ooo. Marceline's demonic heritage reveals how the Nightosphere's magic bleeds into Ooo. Unlike vampires, whose curse is inherited through blood, Marceline's demonic powers come from lineage and an unavoidable inheritance from her father. She did not choose to be half demon, just as she did not choose to be immortal through vampirism. Yet the Nightosphere shaped her regardless, giving her powers of levitation, transformation, and endurance. Psychologically, this reflects the burden of family legacy. Symbolically, it shows that magic often arrives not through choice, but through heritage, binding individuals to forces beyond their will. The Nightosphere's magic functions through contracts, a reflection of Hunson's pragmatic approach. Unlike raw elemental force, Nightosphere magic is legalistic, transactional, binding individuals through pacts that strip them of freedom. Hunson's ability to trap souls in documents, to bind mortals to his will through agreements, makes his magic both bureaucratic and terrifying. Psychologically, this reflects the human fear of entrapment, of losing autonomy through systems we barely understand. Symbolically, it reveals that magic's corruption does not always roar with fire. Sometimes it hides in paperwork, rules, and signatures. The most significant confrontation with the Nightosphere occurs when Marceline must face her father directly. In It Came from the Nightosphere, Finn summons Hunson to repair Marceline's relationship with him, only for chaos to ensue. Hunson immediately reveals his hunger, threatening to devour souls, treating Ooo as little more than a buffet. Yet beneath the comedy lies pain. Marceline's resentment at his absence, his neglect of her childhood, his inability to see her as more than an extension of himself. Psychologically, this episode is about more than demons. It is about a daughter confronting the shadow of a father who failed her. Symbolically, it shows that the Nightosphere's greatest corruption is not in devoured souls, but in broken bonds. Later episodes reveal that Hunson is not entirely malicious. He does care for Marceline in his own way, though his love is distorted by his nature. He cannot stop being who he is, a soul-devouring demon. Yet in moments of vulnerability, we see glimpses of affection, clumsy attempts at connection. Psychologically, this reflects the complexity of family trauma. Love entangled with pain, care entangled with harm. Symbolically, it reveals that even the darkest magic carries traces of humanity, for even in the Nightosphere, bonds between parent and child persist. The Nightosphere's place in Oo's history also reveals the porous boundaries between dimensions. Hunson can cross into Ooo when summoned, and others can slip into his realm. This permeability shows that Ooo is never isolated. Its history is shaped not only by its own kingdoms, but by forces that seep in from beyond. Psychologically, this reflects the way trauma and legacy intrude into present life. Symbolically, it shows that magic is never contained. It flows, leaks, and binds across realms, shaping lives even when uninvited. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Nightosphere is its contrast with other dimensions. Death's realm is orderly, neutral, inevitable. Prismo's time room is whimsical, creative, bound by rules of wish-making. The Nightosphere, by contrast, is chaotic and corruptive, defined by hunger. Together, these dimensions reveal the spectrum of Ooo's magical cosmos. Psychologically, they reflect different aspects of the human condition: inevitability, desire, creativity, and corruption. Symbolically, they show that magic is not a single force, but a constellation of forces, each shaping the world in different ways. Peppermint Butler's dealings with Hunson highlight how even Oo's citizens recognize the necessity of the Nightosphere's magic. While most fear it, Peppermint Butler embraces it, summoning Hunson with ease, making deals where others would tremble. This reflects the pragmatic truth that even corruptive magic has uses. Psychologically, it reveals the willingness to embrace darkness for protection. Symbolically, it shows that the Nightosphere, for all its danger, is inseparable from Oo's survival. Ultimately, the Nightosphere's magic reveals the side of Oo's history that is most unsettling. It is not whimsical like candy, not balanced like elements, not obsessive like wizardry. It is hunger. It is contracts. It is corruption, wrapped in bureaucracy. Through Hunson, we see its power to consume. Through Marceline, we see its power to wound. Through Ooo, we see its power to intrude. Psychologically, it reflects addiction, compulsion, and the legacies of broken families. Symbolically, it reveals that magic is not always a gift or curse. Sometimes it is inheritance, shadow, and appetite that cannot be ignored. The Nightosphere may not dominate Ooo in the same way as kingdoms or cosmic beings, but its presence is essential. It reminds us that magic is not only about creation and wonder. It is also about corruption, appetite, and the painful truths of family. And in that reminder, it deepens the history of Ooo, showing that magic's story is not only about sweetness or heroism, but about shadows that follow us, even when we wish they would stay hidden in another realm. If the elementals are the foundation of Ooo and wizardry, represents the mortal pursuit of magic, then artifacts show us magic in its most concentrated, portable, and dangerous form. Artifacts are objects infused with enchantments, often ancient, often cursed, and always carrying consequences. Unlike wizardry, which requires learning, or elemental powers, which are inherited, artifacts can fall into anyone's hands: a child, a villain, a wanderer. This accessibility makes them both wondrous and terrifying. In the history of Ooo, artifacts have shaped destinies, opened worlds, and destroyed lives. To understand magic, we must trace these objects of power, for in their stories, we see how magic condenses into tangible form. Perhaps the most famous artifact is the enchiridion, the hero's manual. Gifted only to those deemed worthy, it is more than a book. Its pages contain guidance for quests, instructions for navigating dimensions, and even connections to cosmic forces. Finn's early encounter with the enchiridion sets him on the path of heroism, revealing that the book is not only an object, but a test. It judges character, rewarding those who embody courage and integrity. Symbolically, the enchiridion represents wisdom, the idea that knowledge is itself a form of magic. Psychologically, it reflects the way guidance shapes identity, how having a mentor, even in the form of a book, can set one's destiny in motion. The Ice Crown, explored in depth earlier, is another artifact of immense importance. Where the enchiridion guides, the crown consumes. Its enchantments grant mastery over ice, but at the cost of identity. Simon Petrikov's tragedy shows how an artifact can dominate a life, turning love into obsession, intellect into madness. Symbolically, the crown reveals magic as curse, a reminder that power extracted from objects is rarely free. Psychologically, it represents addiction, the way something external can infiltrate and erode the self. Other crowns and gems appear across Ooo, each with their own significance. Princess Bubblegum's elemental gem, Flame Princess's jewel, and even small charms used by wizards reveal that artifacts are not limited to legendary items. They are common in Ooo, woven into everyday life. Yet their influence is never small. Even minor trinkets can alter reality, shift fate, or unleash chaos. Symbolically, this shows that magic's danger lies not only in the great, but in the ordinary. Psychologically, it reflects the truth that even small decisions or objects can carry immense weight. Weapons often double as artifacts. Finn's swords, each unique, carry symbolic and magical resonance. The grass sword, for example, fused with his body, cursed him with power he could not easily control. This sword, and its evolution into Fern, reveals how artifacts can blur the line between object and identity. A weapon is not merely held, it can become part of who you are. Psychologically, this reflects the way tools shape us, how what we carry becomes part of ourselves. Symbolically, it shows that magic, when bound to weapons, is never only external violence, but also internal transformation. The demon blood sword, crafted from Hunson Abadir's blood, deepens this theme. A gift from Marceline to Finn, the sword embodies Nightosphere power. It carries the weight of family legacy, the bond between father and daughter, twisted into steel. For Finn, wielding it is not only about strength, but about trust. Accepting Marceline's gift, carrying part of her heritage. Psychologically, the sword represents inheritance, the way we carry others' burdens. Symbolically, it reveals how magic in Ooo is always relational, never detached from history and identity. The time amulet and similar objects expand artifacts into the realm of the cosmic. With them, characters can bend time, cross dimensions, or glimpse futures. Yet these artifacts often prove unstable, their power too vast for mortals to control. Symbolically, they reveal that magic tied to time always carries paradox and consequence. Psychologically, they reflect the human longing to undo mistakes, to rewrite history, even when such attempts deepen wounds. The Night Sword, wielded briefly by Finn, and other cursed weapons reveal another theme, that artifacts often demand sacrifice. Power is not free. Whether it is the loss of identity to the crown, the binding of self to the grass sword, or the corruptive influence of demonic weapons, artifacts extract costs. Psychologically, this reflects the truth that tools shape us as much as we use them. Symbolically, it shows that magic in Ooo always balances gain with loss. Artifacts also serve as bridges between realms. The enchiridion connects to Prismo's dimension, opening pathways to wishes and alternate realities. The crown connects to the ice elemental's essence. Demonic artifacts tie Ooo to the Nightosphere. These objects remind us that Ooo is never sealed off. It is always porous, linked to dimensions beyond. Psychologically, this reflects the interconnectedness of experiences, how one choice opens to countless consequences. Symbolically, it shows that magic's true power is not in domination, but in connection, binding worlds together. Not all artifacts are grand. Some are humorous, whimsical, or seemingly trivial. Magic wands, enchanted trinkets, cursed rings, all appear in Adventure Time, often causing chaos disproportionate to their size. This highlights Oo's philosophy that magic need not be solemn. It can be playful, strange, even silly, yet still deeply consequential. Psychologically, this reflects the way even small, light-hearted actions ripple outward. Symbolically, it shows that magic is not separate from whimsy but intertwined with it. Artifacts in Ooo also embody memory. They are relics of the past, carrying histories within them. The crown remembers Simon. The enchiridion remembers heroes. The grass sword remembers the curse that created it. Carrying these objects means carrying history, often whether one wants to or not. Psychologically, this reflects the burden of inheritance. Symbolically, it shows that magic's permanence often lies not in spells cast, but in objects carried forward. Ultimately, artifacts of power remind us that magic in Ooo is not always abstract. It can be held, wielded, and carried, but this tangibility does not make it safe. If anything, it makes it more dangerous, for anyone can stumble upon it. A child can find a cursed sword. A scholar can find a crown. A hero can open a book. Artifacts democratize magic, spreading both wonder and peril across Ooo. Psychologically, they reflect the truth that power often arrives unexpectedly. Symbolically, they remind us that magic is always near, waiting in the objects we carry, ready to shape destinies with a single touch. Not all magic in Ooo is the same. Some of it bursts forth wildly, spilling across the land through mutations, curses, and elemental surges. Some of it, by contrast, is carefully studied, written down in scrolls, practiced in rituals, and taught in schools. To understand the full scope of Ooo's magical history, we must see how these two currents, primal and structured, flow against and with one another. Their tension shapes kingdoms, wizards, and even heroes, revealing how magic can be both a chaotic force of nature and a discipline pursued with method and obsession. Primal magic is wild, instinctive, and uncontained. It is the mutation of candy people after the Mushroom War, the fire coursing through Flame Princess, the slime that endlessly reforms. It is the demonic inheritance of Marceline, the vampiric curse that reshaped her life, the comets that descend from the stars carrying destiny. Primal magic does not ask permission. It exists because the world itself demands it, because reality has cracks, and from those cracks flow energies that cannot be caged. Symbolically, primal magic represents life itself, unpredictable, fertile, destructive, and ungovernable. Psychologically, it reflects instinct, the parts of ourselves that operate beneath reason, guiding us through survival and desire. Structured magic, on the other hand, is deliberate. It is wizardry taught in Wizard City, the spells memorized by Peppermint Butler, the artifacts catalogued and studied by Simon Petrikov before the crown consumed him. Structured magic believes in control, in mastery, in rules that can be learned and passed on. It is hierarchical, with teachers and students, ranks and rituals, codes and incantations. Symbolically, structured magic represents reason, humanity's desire to impose order on chaos. Psychologically, it reflects discipline, the conscious attempt to tame instincts and transform them into tools. The tension between these forms of magic runs throughout Oo's history. The elementals embody primal forces, their powers inseparable from their very being. Wizard City embodies structured magic, turning spells into curricula. The Candy Kingdom embodies structure through PB's science, while the Fire Kingdom embodies primal energy through Flame Princess's volatility. Even in individuals, this tension appears. Peppermint Butler studies magic through structure, yet wields necromancy's primal terror. Marceline is born of primal inheritance, yet learns to harness it with structured discipline, choosing when to wield her powers. This duality mirrors a deeper truth about Oo's world. The Mushroom War itself was an explosion of structured technology fused with primal corruption. The bomb was built by human science, yet it unleashed the Lich, a primal force of annihilation. From that fusion, Ooo was born, a land where structured systems crumbled, leaving primal magic to flourish, only to be rebuilt into new structures like kingdoms and wizard schools. Psychologically, this reflects the cycle of human civilization. Order collapsing into chaos, chaos reforged into new orders. Symbolically, it shows that magic in Ooo is never one or the other, but always both, endlessly shifting between freedom and control. Structured magic often seeks to suppress primal magic. Wizards build spells to contain demons, to shield against elemental surges, to bind curses. Princess Bubblegum, with her science and authority, often treats primal magic as a threat, seeking to regulate or neutralize it. Yet primal magic resists suppression. Flame Princess cannot extinguish her fire. Slime endlessly reforms no matter how it is cut. Even the Lich, though trapped and sealed, always finds cracks to return through. Psychologically, this reflects the repression of instincts to the way attempts to bury emotion or desire only cause it to resurface. Symbolically, it shows that primal magic cannot be destroyed, only acknowledged and integrated. Yet structured magic is not inherently oppressive. It provides safety, continuity, and the means to pass on knowledge. Without structure, primal energy can consume. Vampirism, left unchecked, would ravage Ooo. Fire, without discipline, would reduce kingdoms to ash. Slime, without boundaries, would engulf lands. Structured magic offers tools to balance, to harness, to transform. Psychologically, this reflects the necessity of discipline to live with instinct. Symbolically, it reveals that freedom without form risks collapse, while form without freedom risks stagnation. Magic in Ooo thrives when the two flow together. Characters embody this tension vividly. Peppermint Butler thrives on structured study, but chooses primal darkness when needed. His loyalty to Bubblegum shows structure, but his necromancy shows primal hunger. Flame Princess wrestles between her father's attempt to structure her as a weapon and her own primal need for freedom. Marceline resists structure, living as a wanderer, yet her music provides her with a form, a structure for her emotions, a way to channel her primal grief into expression. Even Finn, a human without innate magic, lives within this tension. He faces primal forces, but often relies on structured tools, like swords and the enchiridion, to navigate them. Artifacts also reveal this duality. The crown is structured, a crafted object, yet it unleashes primal madness. The enchiridion is structured wisdom, yet it opens paths to primal cosmic forces. The grass sword fuses with Finn, primal in its curse, yet eventually becomes integrated into his structured identity as Fern. Each artifact carries both order and chaos, revealing that magic's nature cannot be separated neatly. Psychologically, this shows how tools we create carry unintended instincts. Symbolically, it affirms that magic always bridges the primal and the structured, never resting fully in one. Even the cosmos reflects this interplay. Prismo's time room is structured magic, rules, wishes, bargains, balance. The Cosmic Owl's dreams are primal magic, chaotic, symbolic, filled with meaning yet impossible to interpret fully. GOLB represents primal chaos taken to its extreme, yet even he has structure, that his presence obeys rules of corruption and entropy. Life and death, structured in their realms, balance primal forces of creation and dissolution. Together, they reveal that Oo's cosmos is not a binary but a spectrum, with structure and primal energy always entwined. The history of Ooo repeatedly demonstrates that neither form of magic can exist alone. When structure dominates, as in Bubblegum's authoritarian rule, the result is repression, rebellion, and eventual collapse. When primal dominates, as in Flame King's fiery tyranny, the result is destruction and instability. The healthiest moments in Oo's history occur when the two meet. When Finn combines instinct with guidance, when Bubblegum tempers science with love, when Marceline balances vampirism with song, when Flame Princess channels fire into rulership rather than rage. Psychologically, this reflects integration on the blending of instinct and reason, freedom and control. Symbolically, it shows that survival in Ooo and in life requires not choosing one form but reconciling both. Ultimately, primal and structured magic are not enemies but partners in tension. Their dance defines Oo's landscapes, kingdoms, and characters. Primal energy surges through every mutation, curse, and elemental power. Structured discipline channels that energy into tools, kingdoms, and legacies. Together, they create a world that is both whimsical and terrifying, both chaotic and ordered. To live in Ooo is to live within this balance, to acknowledge that magic is never only instinct or only reason, but the unending interplay between the two. By the time Finn and Jake begin their adventures, the Land of Ooo is already saturated with magic. The Mushroom War has ended, kingdoms have formed, and ancient artifacts and curses have resurfaced. Yet what makes this period so distinct is not only the abundance of magic, but the way it intersects with the lives of two adventurers. One, a magical dog with shape-shifting powers. The other, a human with no inherent magic at all. Their journeys through Ooo reveal how magic is experienced, not from the vantage point of gods or monarchs, but from the ground, through the eyes of wanderers who stumble into danger, friendship, and destiny. In the age of Finn and Jake, magic becomes personal, encountered not only in cataclysms, but in everyday quests. Jake's presence immediately sets the tone. As a magical dog, his powers of stretching, growing, and reshaping his body make him one of Oo's most unique beings. Yet Jake does not treat his abilities with the reverence of a wizard or the weight of an elemental. For him, magic is casual, playful, an extension of himself. He uses it to fight, to cook, to relax, to nap in ridiculous positions. Psychologically, Jake represents ease with magic, the ability to live alongside power without being consumed by it. Symbolically, he shows that magic need not always be burden or obsession. It can simply be life, woven into ordinary joy. Finn, by contrast, begins with no magic of his own. As one of the last humans, his power lies in courage, stubbornness, and heart. Yet because he lacks magical abilities, his encounters with Oo's enchantments take on deeper meaning. For Finn, every magical object, every spell, every curse is an opportunity to grapple with forces beyond himself. His humanity highlights magic's strangeness. Psychologically, Finn represents resilience without sorcery, the human ability to adapt even in a world of powers far greater than oneself. Symbolically, he is proof that magic is not the only path to heroism, that love, bravery, and persistence are their own kind of enchantment. Together, Finn and Jake reveal the two sides of living in a magical world. One where magic is casual and playful, and one where it is wondrous and intimidating. Their partnership embodies balance. Jake grounds Finn, showing him that magic can be light-hearted. Finn pushes Jake, reminding him that even whimsical power carries responsibility. Psychologically, they represent the blending of acceptance and aspiration. Symbolically, they embody Oo's philosophy, that life in a magical world is not about mastering every force, but about walking through it with friendship and heart. Their adventures constantly bring them into contact with Oo's magical tapestry. From the very beginning, they seek out quests, often stumbling upon enchanted swords, cursed creatures, and magical dungeons. These early encounters are often comical or chaotic, a magical donut, a talking heart, a cursed crown, yet each one expands their understanding of Oo. Over time, these small encounters accumulate into a larger truth, that magic in Oo is not rare but omnipresent. It shapes every adventure, whether through kingdoms ruled by magical princesses or forests crawling with enchanted beasts. The enchiridion is a pivotal example. Given to Finn as a sign of worthiness, the book represents the structured side of magic, guidance, knowledge, destiny. For Finn, receiving it is validation that even without powers, he belongs in this world of enchantment. Psychologically, the enchiridion reflects the role of mentorship, the way recognition shapes identity. Symbolically, it shows that magic acknowledges not only those born into it, but those who choose to embody its values. The grass sword provides the opposite experience. A cursed weapon that fuses with Finn, it drags him into primal magic, merging with his body, altering him, and eventually giving rise to Fern. Unlike the enchiridion, which affirms Finn's worth, the grass sword tests him with corruption. Psychologically, it reveals the danger of power that seeps too deeply, reshaping identity. Symbolically, it affirms that magic is not always a gift, but often a burden, demanding sacrifice. Through both objects, Finn learns that magic is never neutral, it always shapes those who touch it. Jake's encounters with magic also deepen over time. While he begins by treating his powers casually, episodes like Joshua and Margaret investigations reveal that his abilities are the result of a curse placed upon his father. Jake's powers are not simply whimsical gifts, but inheritances from magical disruption. This revelation adds weight to his identity, reminding us that even playful magic carries history. Psychologically, this reflects the inheritance of trauma across generations. Symbolically, it shows that magic's touch never arrives without context, to silliest. Even the silliest powers are born from stories of conflict and cost. Throughout their journeys, Finn and Jake also encounter kingdoms where magic is normalized. In the Candy Kingdom, citizens are literally candy come to life, their existence a whimsical mutation. In the Fire Kingdom, flame is both biology and enchantment, shaping culture and politics. In Wizard City, magic is profession, studied and regulated. Each encounter exposes the boys to different forms of magic, whimsical, destructive, structured. Psychologically, these travels represent education, the way experience teaches more than books ever could. Symbolically, they reveal that magic in Ooo is not uniform but endlessly diverse, each community shaping it differently. One of the most profound arcs in this age is Finn's relationship with Flame Princess. Her very existence embodies elemental fire, volatile and consuming. Their romance forces Finn to confront the dangers of magic, not as abstract curses, but as emotional reality. Loving someone whose anger can destroy him teaches Finn that intimacy with magic is complicated, filled with risk and vulnerability. Psychologically, their relationship reflects the challenges of adolescence, the way love can feel overwhelming and dangerous. Symbolically, it reveals that magic, like love, burns brightest when respected, but destroys when mishandled. Marceline and PB also intersect with Finn and Jake's adventures, further expanding their exposure to magic. Marceline embodies vampirism and demonic inheritance. PB embodies the candy elemental. For Finn, their friendships are windows into how magic shapes identity across centuries. For Jake, they are reminders that even powerful figures are also friends, neighbors, and companions. Psychologically, these relationships show that magic does not isolate but connects, but power. That even beings of immense power need intimacy and trust. Symbolically, they reveal that Oo's true strength lies not in spells, but in bonds. The Lich's recurring presence makes magic's darker face unavoidable. For Finn and Jake, battling the Lich is not about defeating a villain with powers of equal strength. It is about standing against annihilation itself, forces so primal that even the strongest enchantments falter. Their survival against him shows that in Ooo, magic is not always answered with magic. Sometimes it is answered with courage, persistence, and sheer refusal to yield. Psychologically, this reflects resilience in the face of despair. Symbolically, it reveals that magic's opposite is not mundane life, but hope. In this age, we also see how Finn grows into maturity through his encounters with magic. At first, he seeks adventures for their own sake, the thrill of danger, the joy of discovery. But as he matures, magic becomes less about excitement and more about responsibility. His encounters with curses, kingdoms, and cosmic forces teach him that every magical act ripples outward. Psychologically, this reflects the growth from childhood to adulthood, the shift from play to responsibility. Symbolically, it affirms that living in a magical world requires not only courage, but wisdom. Jake, too, matures in how he treats his powers. What begins as casual play becomes deeper as he embraces his role as partner, father, and protector. His magic, once silly, becomes a tool of love and care. Psychologically, this reflects the integration of power into identity. Symbolically, it shows that magic's greatest purpose is not destruction, but connection, binding families and friendships together. Ultimately, the Age of Finn and Jake reveals magic not as distant principle or cosmic force, but as lived reality. It is in cursed swords and silly trinkets, in kingdoms of candy and fire, in the friendships that endure and the villains that threaten. Magic in this age is not background. It is foreground, woven into every quest and every choice. Yet, through it all, Finn and Jake remind us that magic is not only about power. It is about the stories we tell, the friendships we hold, and the courage we carry. Psychologically, their adventures reflect the human journey through a world of overwhelming forces. Symbolically, they reveal that the true magic of Ooo is not in spells or crowns, but in hearts that endure, laugh, and love. If there is one thread that ties nearly every magical event in Ooo together, it is transformation. Magic rarely leaves things as they are. It mutates, reshapes, fuses, and alters. Sometimes this change is whimsical, turning candy into living citizens or dogs into shapeshifters. Other times, it is tragic, reshaping lives into curses, like Simon into the Ice King or Finn into Fern. Transformation is the constant, the way magic asserts itself by refusing stability. To understand magic in Ooo, we must understand this theme of transformation, how enchantments and curses shape bodies, identities, and destinies across the land. Transformation is visible in Oo's very landscape. The Mushroom War cracked reality, and magic filled the fractures. Radiation and corruption fused with enchantment, creating candy people, flame creatures, and slime beings. These are not natural evolutions, but magical transformations of matter into life. Psychologically, this reflects resilience, life reasserting itself even in ruin. Symbolically, it reveals that Ooo itself is a transformed world, a scarred earth reborn through magic. At the personal level, transformation defines many of Oo's most important characters. Simon Petrikov's descent into the Ice King is the clearest example. A man reshaped by the crown until his body, mind, and soul are no longer his own. His transformation is slow, tragic, and irreversible until the very end. Psychologically, it reflects the erosion of identity under trauma or illness. Symbolically, it shows that magic's cost is often the rewriting of self. Marceline's transformation into a vampire tells a different story. Unlike Simon, who loses himself, Marceline keeps her identity intact, but stretches it across centuries. Her transformation grants immortality, but burdens her with endless memory. Psychologically, this reflects survival under curse. Symbolically, it shows transformation not only as loss, but as endurance, reshaping pain into resilience. Finn's transformations are subtler, but no less profound. The grass sword fuses with his body, altering his arm, eventually leading to the creation of Fern. Unlike Simon or Marceline, Finn is not defined by a single transformation, but by many, cursed arms, alternate selves, even his relationship with Shoko, another human transformed by magic. Each transformation confronts Finn with the fragility of identity. Psychologically, his story reflects the way adolescence itself is transformation. Body, mind, and soul reshaped into adulthood. Symbolically, it shows that magic's true effect is to remind us that nothing stays the same. Jake's powers also embody transformation in a more playful way. As a magical dog, he stretches, grows, shrinks, and morphs with ease. For him, transformation is not curse, but comfort, an extension of relaxation. Yet even his powers carry weight, as they originate from a curse placed on his father. Jake's comfort with transformation reveals the other side of magic's mutability. It can be lived with, laughed with, even loved. Psychologically, Jake reflects adaptability, the ability to embrace change rather than resist it. Symbolically, he shows that transformation is not always tragic. Sometimes it is joy. Villains in Ooo also embody transformation. The Lich reshapes everything he touches into corruption, warping the land and bending creatures to his will. GOLB unravels form itself, dissolving beings into chaos. Even minor villains, like Magic Man, wield transformation as cruelty, turning mortals into objects or animals for amusement. These antagonistic transformations reveal the danger of magic when used to strip autonomy. Psychologically, they represent violation, the horror of being changed against one's will. Symbolically, they remind us that transformation is not always rebirth. Sometimes it is destruction. Artifacts often catalyze transformation. The crown turns Simon into the Ice King. The grass sword fuses with Finn. The demon blood sword channels the Nightosphere's power through whoever wields it. Even the enchiridion transforms Finn, not physically, but in identity, from ordinary adventurer to chosen hero. Psychologically, artifacts reveal how external objects reshape internal selves. Symbolically, they show that transformation often comes not from within, but from the things we carry. The Candy Kingdom itself is a monument to transformation. Princess Bubblegum, made from candy biomass, shapes life from matter, turning sugar and chemicals into citizens. Her entire kingdom is an ongoing act of magical transformation, objects into beings, food into friends. Psychologically, this reflects creativity and control. Symbolically, it reveals that transformation can build communities, not only isolate individuals. Yet, transformation in Ooo is not always external. Dreams, visions, and prophecies transform perception. The cosmic owl's visitations alter the courses of lives, revealing that even the unseen can reshape destiny. Psychologically, these moments represent epiphany, the transformation of understanding. Symbolically, they show that magic changes not only bodies and kingdoms, but also minds. What ties all these examples together is that transformation in Ooo is rarely reversible. Once Simon becomes the Ice King, he cannot simply undo it. Once Finn fuses with the grass sword, the curse remains until it takes form as Fern. Once Marceline becomes a vampire, her immortality is permanent. Even whimsical transformations, like Magic Man's cruel spells, leave scars. This permanence reveals magic's deepest truth. It does not offer clean resets. Change is lasting. Psychologically, this reflects the permanence of trauma and growth. Symbolically, it affirms that transformation is life itself, irreversible, shaping who we are forever. Yet within this permanence lies resilience. Simon survives as the Ice King, fragments of love persisting. Marceline turns immortality into music and friendship. Finn turns curses into growth, learning responsibility. Jake turns a curse into play. Even Ooo itself turns devastation into life, transforming ruins into kingdoms. Magic's transformations, though painful, open paths for endurance. Psychologically, they reflect adaptation. Symbolically, they reveal that transformation, though irreversible, need not mean despair. Ultimately, magic in Ooo is transformation made visible. It reshapes landscapes, creates kingdoms, alters bodies, and redefines souls. Sometimes it is curse, sometimes blessing, often both at once. Simon, Marceline, Finn, Jake, PB, the Lich, GOLB, all are defined by transformations that shape not only themselves, but the world around them. In Ooo, nothing stays the same, because magic refuses stability. Psychologically, this reflects the human truth that we are always changing, always becoming. Symbolically, it shows that magic is not separate from life, but life intensified, change made dramatic and undeniable. In the end, transformation is both Oo's curse and its hope. It erases, it scars, it wounds, but it also creates, endures, and sings. Through transformation, Ooo survives. Through transformation, its people live on. And through transformation, Adventure Time reveals its deepest truth, that nothing, whether crown, curse, or kingdom, stays as its island. Everything becomes something new. As vast and strange as Ooo already is, filled with candy kingdoms, cursed artifacts, and elemental rulers, there exists a layer of reality even higher, the realm of cosmic forces. These are not wizards tinkering with spells or princesses shaping kingdoms. These are beings and principles that govern existence itself, standing outside of Ooo while still shaping its fate. In their presence, even powerful figures like Princess Bubblegum or the Vampire King appear small. To understand the full history of magic, we must ascend to this level, where wish-granting beings, prophetic dreams, and incomprehensible forces reveal that Ooo is only one thread in a vast cosmic web. The first of these beings is Prismo, the Wishmaster. Living in the Time Room, Prismo grants one wish to any who reach him. But unlike the whimsical wishes of fairy tales, Prismo's wishes follow rules, bending reality, but always within boundaries. The structure of his magic reveals a profound truth. Even the cosmic has laws. Psychologically, Prismo reflects the human longing for control over fate, to the desire to undo loss, to reshape destiny, to grasp what lies beyond our power. Symbolically, he shows that magic, even at its most expansive, is bound by structure, for without rules, existence itself would collapse. Prismo is also unique among cosmic beings because of his personality. Unlike the cold inevitability of death or the corruption of GOLB, Prismo is relaxed, humorous, almost friendly. He enjoys conversation, snacks, and hanging out with mortals. Yet his easygoing demeanour hides the weight of his role. He is eternal, bound to grant wishes, but unable to escape his duty. Psychologically, this reflects the paradox of power, to be limitless in influence, yet limited in freedom. Symbolically, it shows that even cosmic magic carries burdens, for eternity without choice is its own kind of prison. Another force shaping Ooo is the cosmic owl. Unlike Prismo, who interacts directly with mortals, the cosmic owl appears in dreams, delivering prophecies that cannot be ignored. His presence transforms ordinary visions into destiny, marking events as significant, fated, inevitable. The cosmic owl reveals that magic does not only act through objects or curses, but through symbols and subconscious truths. Psychologically, he represents intuition, the way our inner worlds guide us toward choices we may not understand. Symbolically, he shows that magic's greatest power may not be in spells, but in meaning itself, the way dreams shape lives as surely as swords. The comets extend this further, descending upon Earth every 1,000 years, each carrying with it a fragment of cosmic destiny. Finn himself is tied to one of these comets, his soul part of an eternal cycle of rebirth and choice. The comets show that Oo's magic is not local but universal, that destinies are written not only in crowns and curses but in the very stars. Psychologically, the comets reflect the human sense of recurrence, the feeling that life repeats patterns, that we are caught in cycles larger than ourselves. Symbolically, they reveal that magic is not chaos alone, but rhythm, patterns etched into the universe. Beyond these lies the balance of life and death. Death, calm and impartial, governs the passing of souls, maintaining order. His realm is structured, his demeanour detached, reminding us that mortality is not curse but inevitability. Life, by contrast, is exuberant, chaotic, a being of endless creation and transformation. Together, they reveal the spectrum of existence, one shaping beginnings, the other endings. Psychologically, they reflect the twin poles of human experience, vitality and mortality. Symbolically, they show that magic in Ooo is not only about power, but about the very conditions of existence itself. Yet the most terrifying of all cosmic forces is GOLB. Unlike Prismo's structured wish magic, or the cosmic owl's symbolic dreams, GOLB represents entropy, the unmaking of form, the devouring of meaning. Where life creates and death organizes, GOLB unravels. He corrupts matter, fuses beings into monstrosities, and destabilizes reality itself. In the finale, when he descends upon Ooo, his presence reveals that magic's ultimate shadow is dissolution. Psychologically, GOLB represents annihilation, the fear of losing identity, memory, and self into nothingness. Symbolically, He embodies the truth that even in a world of whimsy, chaos always waits at the edges. These cosmic forces do not exist in isolation. They intersect with Oo's history constantly. The enchiridion leads Finn to Prismo, whose wish-granting reshapes worlds. The cosmic owl's appearances in dreams guide decisions that alter kingdoms. The comets descend, ensuring that heroes like Finn are not coincidences, but continuations. Death negotiates with Peppermint Butler, entangling the Candy Kingdom in eternal balances. Life emerges in bursts of creation, her chaotic energy fueling the constant strangeness of Ooo. And GOLB's arrival at the end reveals that all of these forces are fragile in the face of entropy. Characters' relationships with these beings reveal the human dimension of cosmic magic. Finn meets Prismo and is forced to confront what he truly desires. Jake encounters the cosmic owl in a dream, realizing the weight of destiny. Peppermint Butler bargains with death, embodying the willingness to face the inevitable. Simon, freed from the crown, sees GOLB consume Betty, realizing that even love cannot always defy entropy. Psychologically, these encounters represent humanity's brush with the infinite, the way we glimpse forces larger than ourselves and must find meaning in them. Symbolically, they show that magic's highest expression is not control, but confrontation with the vastness of existence. The cosmos of Ooo reveals that magic is not confined to kingdoms or curses. It is woven into the very structure of the universe, into cycles of comets, rules of wishes, dreams of owls, and the dance of life and death. Each force carries lessons. Prismo shows the weight of choice. The cosmic owl shows the inevitability of destiny. The comets show the cycles of being. Life and death show the balance of beginnings and endings. And GOLB shows the fragility of meaning itself. Psychologically, they reflect the deepest human questions. What do we want? What do we fear? What patterns shape us? How do we live with death? And what do we do in the face of nothingness? Symbolically, they reveal that magic, at its highest level, is philosophy in motion, endearing the questions of existence given form. Ultimately, the cosmic forces remind us that Ooo is not an isolated land, but part of a vast magical reality. They expand the scale from kingdoms and curses to eternity itself. And yet, their stories always circle back to individuals: Finn, Jake, Marceline, Simon, PB, Peppermint Butler. For in the end, even cosmic magic is experienced through personal lives. Psychologically, this reflects the way vast truths touch us only in the intimate. Symbolically, it shows that magic's greatest power is not only to shape worlds, but to shape hearts, guiding us through love, loss, destiny, and survival. Throughout the history of Ooo, magic has appeared in countless forms. Whimsical candy citizens, destructive elemental forces, wish, granting cosmic beings, curses, artifacts, and dreams. But at the edges of all this wonder and creativity lurks something darker, a force that is not simply dangerous magic, but the undoing of magic itself. That force is GOLB. Unlike other entities who embody creation, balance, or corruption, GOLB embodies entropy, chaos, and the unravelling of meaning. If Prismo represents order through wishes, and life represents endless creativity, then GOLB is their opposite: the devourer, the dissolver, the anti-magic. The very first hints of GOLB's existence in Adventure Time are subtle, tied to the strange worshippers who build shrines and whisper his name. He is never treated as myth, but as an unavoidable fact of the cosmos, feared even by powerful beings. His arrival in the finale only confirms what was always true. GOLB is not just another villain like the Lich. He is a principle, a cosmic law that asserts itself when reality begins to fray. Psychologically, GOLB represents annihilation, not only of life, but of identity, memory, and form itself. Symbolically, he is the shadow side of all magic, the reminder that everything that exists can also be undone. Where other forms of magic create transformation, GOLB creates distortion. His touch fuses beings together into grotesque amalgamations, stripping them of individuality. This is not transformation in the sense of growth, like Marceline's vampirism or Finn's grass sword curse. It is obliteration of the self, the reduction of many into formless chaos. Psychologically, this reflects the fear of losing individuality, of being swallowed by forces beyond control. Symbolically, it shows that GOLB's magic is not creation, but corruption, the anti-pattern that erases rather than builds. The Lich, terrifying as he is, pales in comparison to GOLB. The Lich embodies death, decay, and annihilation, but he still has a shape, a will, an identity. GOLB has none of these. He is not villain in the traditional sense, because he cannot be reasoned with, persuaded, or truly fought. He does not seek domination or conquest. He simply unravels. This difference reveals why GOLB is called anti-magic. Magic, no matter how whimsical or dark, creates meaning. A candy citizen walking, a curse altering life, a wish bending destiny. GOLB is the opposite, stripping meaning away until only chaos remains. The most striking moment of GOLB's influence comes in the finale, when Betty sacrifices herself to fuse with him, reshaping his destructive presence. Betty, driven by her love for Simon, becomes not merely his victim, but his transformation. In doing so, she prevents Ooo from total unraveling. This moment reveals GOLB's paradox. Though he is anti-magic, even he can be altered through love, through human will. Psychologically, this reflects the idea that even annihilation can be met with meaning. Symbolically, it shows that the only force that can stand against entropy is connection. Simon's arc makes this confrontation especially poignant. Having been consumed by the crown's curse for centuries, he knows what it means to lose self. To see Betty fuse with GOLB is both salvation and grief. He is freed, but at the cost of the person he loves most. This makes GOLB not only a cosmic threat, but a deeply personal wound. Psychologically, this reflects trauma's aftermath, the way survival often arrives through unbearable loss. Symbolically, it shows that even when chaos is held back, scars remain. GOLB's presence also reframes the entire history of Ooo. Every act of magic, from candy people to cosmic comets, exists in contrast to him. Magic creates, GOLB uncreates. Magic transforms, GOLB corrupts. Magic gives identity, GOLB dissolves it. This contrast reveals why his arrival is saved for the story's end. He is the ultimate shadow, the opposite pole to all that has come before. Psychologically, he represents the end every story must face, the fear that nothing lasts. Symbolically, he shows that meaning exists only because it can be lost. What makes GOLB especially unsettling is his lack of intent. Other villains have desires, however twisted. The Lich seeks annihilation, Hunson seeks souls, Magic Man seeks amusement, GOLB seeks nothing. His existence is enough. This makes him less like a character and more like a principle, entropy itself given form. Psychologically, this reflects the human confrontation with forces that are not personal but inevitable. Death, chaos, disaster. Symbolically, it shows that magic's greatest enemy is not malice, but meaninglessness. Even his appearance reinforces this. GOLB is massive, formless, with many eyes and mouths, constantly shifting and consuming. His body resists stable form, just as his influence resists stable meaning. Compared to the structured order of Prismo's time room, or the whimsical whimsy of life's creations, GOLB's body is chaos incarnate. Psychologically, his form reflects nightmares, the inability to recognize or categorize threat. Symbolically, it shows that anti-magic is the absence of pattern, the breakdown of recognition itself. Thematically, GOLB closes the loop of Adventure Time's exploration of magic. The series begins with whimsical magic, candy citizens, silly quests, princesses kidnapped and rescued. Over time, it grows darker, revealing curses, corruption, and cosmic forces. Finally, it culminates with GOLB, the reminder that beneath all wonder lies the possibility of dissolution. Psychologically, this arc mirrors the growth from childhood to adulthood, beginning in play, moving through struggle, and ending in confrontation with mortality. Symbolically, it reveals that magic is not only about wonder, but about fragility. Yet GOLB's defeat, or at least his transformation through Betty, shows that even anti-magic can be resisted. Not through power, no spell, sword, or kingdom could stop him, but through sacrifice and love. This is perhaps the series' deepest statement about magic, that its opposite is not another form of power, but connection itself. GOLB dissolves, but Betty's choice gives shape even to his chaos, binding him to her love for Simon. Psychologically, this affirms that meaning is found not in control, but in bonds. Symbolically, it shows that the greatest magic of all is not elemental, not cosmic, but relational. In the end, GOLB as anti-magic serves as both threat and reminder. He is the shadow at the edge of Ooo, the possibility of dissolution that makes creation precious. His presence gives weight to every magical act, every kingdom, every friendship. Psychologically, he represents the inevitability of loss, but also the possibility of resilience. Symbolically, he affirms that Oo's history of magic is not only about wonder and power, but about fragility and endurance. Against the endless possibility of chaos, even the smallest connection becomes magic enough. When the Land of Ooo faced its final battle, when kingdoms rose and fell, when Betty sacrificed herself to transform GOLB, and when Simon was freed from the crown, it seemed that Ooo had reached its final chapter. Yet the ending of Adventure Time is not an ending in the traditional sense. The story does not conclude with annihilation, nor with perfect resolution, but with continuation. The world goes on. Kingdoms rebuild, friendships endure, and the land remains strange and magical. To understand the history of magic in Ooo, we must end not with destruction but with legacy. What remains after the war, after the chaos, after the finale? The epilogue with Shermie and Beth captures this legacy most clearly. Long after Finn and Jake's adventures, the two wanderers explore a land still saturated with magic. They discover Finn's sword, treating it as an artifact of legend. Their world is not devoid of enchantment. It is simply a continuation, a new generation encountering the same mysteries in their own way. This moment reveals that magic in Ooo is cyclical. It does not end with one story. It persists, passed down through objects, landscapes, and memory. Psychologically, this reflects the truth of inheritance, that we carry forward what others leave behind. Symbolically, it shows that magic's greatest legacy is continuity, the persistence of wonder through time. Princess Bubblegum's survival, after the finale, also shows this legacy. Having endured countless threats, rebuilt her kingdom repeatedly, and confronted her own authoritarian tendencies, PB emerges not as a conqueror, but as a survivor. Her Candy Kingdom remains, a testament to her blend of science and elemental magic. Symbolically, this reveals that creation, even when fragile, endures through resilience. Psychologically, PB represents the human capacity to adapt, to rebuild, even after failure. Her legacy is not perfect order, but ongoing persistence. Marceline's reconciliation with PB and her survival through the finale adds another layer. As a vampire, she embodies immortality, carrying centuries of memory. Yet in the epilogue, her legacy is not loneliness, but connection. She finds love, friendship, and continuity, proving that even cursed immortality can transform into joy. Psychologically, Marceline's legacy is resilience after trauma. Symbolically, she shows that magic's endurance is not only about kingdoms or artifacts, but about the survival of love. Simon's survival is more complicated. Freed from the crown, he is no longer the Ice King. Yet his grief remains, for Betty is gone, consumed by her sacrifice. Simon's legacy reveals the scars magic leaves behind. He carries no crown, no enchantment, but he carries memory, loss, and the difficulty of living without the powers that once defined him. Psychologically, Simon represents healing that is never complete, survival that includes grief. Symbolically, his story affirms that magic's legacy is not only wonder, but scars, the traces of battles fought and sacrifices made. Jake and Finn's legacy is seen not in immortality, but in story. Jake passes peacefully, embraced by his belief in cosmic cycles, his life full of love and joy. Finn continues, scarred but enduring, still a hero, still seeking adventure. Together, they embody magic's most human legacy, not crowns or curses but friendship. Psychologically, their story reflects the truth that meaning is found not in power but in connection. Symbolically, they show that magic's greatest survival is not in kingdoms but in bonds. The kingdoms themselves embody legacy. The Candy Kingdom endures, rebuilt yet again. The Fire Kingdom continues under Flame Princess's independence. Slime and ice reshape in their own ways, revealing that elemental forces never disappear but reform. Symbolically, this shows that magic is not static. It shifts form, yet always persists. Psychologically, it reflects the resilience of communities, their ability to rebuild after catastrophe. Even GOLB's transformation through Betty carries legacy. Though he is anti-magic, the devourer of meaning, Betty's love reshapes him. This reveals that even the darkest forces leave echoes of change. Psychologically, this reflects the way trauma can be reshaped through sacrifice, leaving behind possibility rather than despair. Symbolically, it affirms that love is the one form of magic that even entropy cannot wholly dissolve. The artifacts of Ooo also carry legacy. The crown is gone, destroyed in its old form, but its memory remains in Simon's scars. The enchiridion continues to symbolize the call to heroism, even if its pages are no longer central. Finn's sword, discovered by Shermie and Beth, becomes legend, proof that objects carry forward not only power, but memory. Psychologically, artifacts represent inheritance, the tangible reminders of past struggles. Symbolically, they show that magic endures because stories cling to objects, passing meaning from one generation to the next. What unites all these threads is the persistence of magic, not as spectacle, but as ordinary reality. After the finale, Ooo does not become mundane. It remains magical, whimsical, dangerous, vibrant. The great battles end, but life continues, filled with candy people, fire monarchs, and new adventurers wandering the land. Psychologically, this reflects the truth of survival, that after even the greatest crises, life returns, not unchanged, but ongoing. Symbolically, it shows that magic's ultimate legacy is continuity, the assurance that the world remains strange, alive, and filled with possibility. Perhaps the most important legacy of magic in Ooo is perspective. After all the battles, curses, and cosmic forces, the survivors recognize that magic is not only about power or danger. It is about connection, resilience, and meaning. Princess Bubblegum learns to temper control with compassion. Marceline learns to transform loneliness into love. Finn learns to carry scars without losing hope. Simon learns to live beyond magic, even in grief. Each of these lessons shows that the true legacy of magic is not crowns or comets, but the way it shapes lives toward connection. The final image of Shermie and Beth discovering Finn's sword captures this perfectly. They do not need to know every detail of Finn's battles, nor every cosmic force that shaped Ooo. They need only hold the sword, to feel its weight, to sense that it carries history. Magic's legacy is not only in grand explanations, but in the quiet persistence of memory. Psychologically, this reflects the way we inherit stories without always knowing their full context. Symbolically, it shows that the past lives on in objects, gestures, and whispers, shaping the future even without full knowledge. In the end, the legacy of magic in Ooo is survival. Not perfect, not painless, but ongoing. Crowns crumble, curses scar, cosmic forces rise and fall, yet life endures, kingdoms rebuild. Love persists, and new adventurers take up old swords. Psychologically, this reflects the human truth that even after devastation, life continues in altered form. Symbolically, it affirms that magic is not only about power or spectacle, but about endurance, the quiet continuation of wonder in the face of chaos. Adventure Time closes, not with the end of magic, but with its persistence. The Land of Ooo remains magical, strange, and alive. Its people carry scars, but also joy. Its kingdoms face threats, but also resilience. Its history is filled with tragedy, but also laughter. This is magic's true legacy, not crowns or curses, not victories or defeats, but the endurance of life itself.